Good evening and welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning. As you know, I'm Dan Winter, FractalU.com, FractalField.com. And in this episode of the Fractal University Online, we have our special guest, Jenefer Markey from Australia, currently at Findhorn. And she's prepared a presentation for us with her long work on lucid dreaming and lucid dreaming for groups. Jenefer has an amazing lifetime of history and work with Aboriginal, would you say, wisdom keepers, Jenefer?
Yes.
And the tribes around Mullumbimby. And Jenefer and her family hosted Valerie and I many times in Australia. We're so grateful. Actually, Jenefer's longtime partner, Patrick Markey, is with us as well. He looks like a Westerner there. And Jenefer has also asked that Patrick Botti be with us. The goal would be actually to measure the connection between people in a preparation for lucid dreaming. And although we can't do all of that tonight, we're going to chat about it. I think it'll be fun. And Jenefer also invited her friend Mark.
Yes, who's part of our team. So Mark, back in the shadows, I can see.
Mark's lighting is
Gracie,
subtle.
and also another member of the team may join us. However, she's a young mother, and it's very early in the morning over there. So they're all in Australia.
Yes, that's right. There's a time.
Gracie, yes, if she makes it. However, being a young mum, it's a tricky one.
Jenefer actually has a rather active lucid dreaming group, which we've been part of several times. It's been amazingly powerful. In fact, it was so powerful, it was a little scary sometimes for me, I'll be honest with you, Jenefer, but that's good. And let's see, in terms of announcements, briefly, before we begin, and then we're going to turn this over to Jenefer. But Tufan, did you have any announcements?
So let's see. Next week, we are going to have our class with Dan Winter. We will talk about how Therapy works. We will talk about plasma rejuvenation working in 25 countries. And the following week, we will be talking with Patrick Bott. I think these are all about my announcements. Everyone knows that we are meeting on Sundays at 2 p.m. New York time, 11 a.m. California, and 8 p.m. Paris time. And we have active conversations on Discord and other social media channels where you can find all those links on FractalU.com.
Thank you, Tufan. That's perfect. And in fact, while we're on that subject, for next week, and there's been an exciting development. We have a couple, at least one, maybe two, very advanced therapists, Therapy operators, Mauricio from Paraguay, and possibly Susan, who's very advanced. So we will have some advanced Therapy operators actually describing advanced work with Therapy plasma next week. It promises to be quite exciting. So that's lined up. And Jenefer, I see your friend Gracie has joined us.
Good morning, Gracie.
she said that you're part of the team there.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome, Gracie.
So the idea is now, I was going to just do a couple minutes enthusiastically describing something about what we think we know about the science of lucid dreaming. And then I'm going to turn this over to Jenefer, who has a slideshow and details and lots of experience. But basically, remember when we were so proud that Therapy.net, our wonderful friend Myra from Athens and Paris, rather documented that there was substantial triggering of lucid dreaming in the Therapy plasma field. Now, I took that as exciting because I think it's a clue to the deep physics here, which is specifically when the plasma field of the body becomes compressed, centripetal, I would say implosive, or another word would be charge collapse. In that situation where the aura becomes dense enough, then propagating from the aura, in the case of lucid dreaming and surviving death, and also remote viewing, we think, that there's what's called a longitudinal array, that the body spits out more of the coherence of the electromagnetic radiation in a coherent longitudinal EMF, sometimes called scalar or torsional, meaning the compressional part of the wave propagates more coherently. We've always said that's the Ba from the Ka and the L and the rainbow light body and the Kesjan body. Lots of names for that. But electrical engineers need to be able to talk about. And that coherence, we believe, enables you to propagate what we would call organs of perception into that array. Literally, you start by inhabiting an array, the synapses of your brain, and then when the array around your body also gets coherent, you can unpack and inhabit a larger array. I mean, you are inhabiting an array, the synapses in your brain. What if you want to inhabit a bigger one? And the Aboriginals have been saying, of course, for centuries, as Jenny would be something of an expert, they call these dreaming lines, song lines, dreaming track, which we think is a clear indication that that array has very specific geobiology. That is the coherence of the magnetic lines, enabling the compression points on the array, the dreaming track song lines, where recursive arrival of compression is constructive, and so these longitudinal waves can bounce at these nodes, the place where Korotkov measured that telepathy is enabled, what they called dreaming track song lines. And remember, in the physics of what Patrick documented, the golden ratio and octave cascades in the coherence, in the brainwave harmonics from alpha to gamma, that ladder of golden ratio and octave harmonics, which measurably correlates to the moment when kids can see without their eyes. And oh, by the way, they regularly talk to ancestors at that point, which is very interesting in terms of the lucid dreaming, even though in the West, they kind of deny that, but in the East, it's taken as normal. Of course, you're going to meet the ancestors when you go there. That is the array. Hello. And so we think we have some handle on the physics here, and that so that, for example, proof that we understand this to some extent, your ability to propagate in that array is increased if the sender and receiver are on a magnetic line, if it is at sunrise or sunset, if it is at equinox. All of that means at the 4-wave mixing compression point nodes of the array, anything that serves that implosive compression helps to hook up that radio. Meaning, and that's then we talked about in the last week in the physics of remote healing. We had a big conversation about that last week. So that's sort of my little enthusiastic intro here. Now, I have to say humbly that I don't consider myself a very good lucid dreamer. I've had plenty of Kundalini and bliss and whatever. And I know, I can make that cascade from delta all the way up to about beta, 5 golden ratio harmonics, and have intense bliss experiences. But my ability to reach gamma is still a bit limited. And that then does say why, well, perhaps I'm not quite that good at clairvoyance. I have some clairaudience, but not much clairvoyance, actually. Anyway, for what it's worth. And that's why I admire people like Jenny, who really have gotten more clear in that inner world, and is so clear that she's actually able to coordinate a group doing this with powerful intention. We've always said that if you can take your lucid dreaming group through the heart of the sun, you can save the gene pool. I mean, you can navigate. I mean, it's like if you can get your pod together, and we think what enables that pod to bond enough to get together to actually lucid dream together is a series of emotional bonding experiences that enables you to phase lock and get coherent as a group, all of which is very fun theoretically. And Jenny actually apparently can do it practically. So on that note, Jenny, please, let's go ahead.
No pressure or anything.
No pressure.
Good evening, everyone. So I'd like to make this a more experiential, and I'd also like to invite feedback and comments from Patrick and Mark and Dan and Tufan. So let's make this a little bit conversational, because although I have a very colorful slide show for you, there is also something about that we have come together here in this space. We are creating this space, even though it's virtual, because we are meeting literally in here in space-time, and I'm going to do this, the inside, the outside. We've, I presume we've consented to be present with each other. No one's being forced to be here. There's gratitude, a sense of curiosity, shared experience, which is, you know, bringing you to FractalU, a desire to learn, respect for other people's work. So all of these things are immediately creating, if you like, our own space. Let's call it our sacred space. So we invite, you know, goodwill, curiosity, a sense of adventure, anything else that you can think of, in order to be mindful of us being here together. And I was pondering how we might start off. I might say a lot. I think it's about immersing us now into a space which is the wider array. Let's do it, because then we can be describing what it means to be a part of a culture in which everyone is a shaman, everyone's an artist. You know, culture is country, lands, waters, and skies. The experiences that we have deep in country with Aboriginal people and persons, the sovereign people of Australia, are very deep and of at least a planetary, if not a galactic level, because they have the history, you know, tens of thousands of years of passing down and transmitting the law, which says that they come from the stars, of course, they're here, you know, we're here on the planet together, and they're part of the earth. So a part of what we might call a shamanic culture. And so as all the team at the moment are in Australia, you know, Patrick and Gracie and Mark and myself, we thought that we would do it this way and immerse everybody, and then we'll see where it takes us. So I'm going to, if that's all right, maybe questions. There's going to be two sections. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start sharing.
In other words, it's our intent that links us. If we can focus our intent collectively, that will focus our ability to bond in that array.
Okay, so are we seeing that one?
We see be the charge in purple. That's
okay. Let me just move the photos of us all, because oh no, I can't do that. Oh, so I'm wondering how to move everyone so that here we go, so that I can actually read what's going on. So you can see the order of play. We're going to, well, we've already done some background introductions. We'll look at the general history and theory, because, you know, I've been soaking up Dan's work for over 30 years now, and been, well, as a family, it's been a part of a family experience for us all, with my sons and daughters, with Dan and Valerie. Hello, Valerie. I'm sure you're there.
She's shy, but she's here.
I know she's there. And then, so we'll introduce you to, hold on, I'm pressing the right button. Okay, so this is the country that we have been immersed in. Dan and Valerie and our family were gifted our own tribal name, and that was in, I think 2002. Might need to check in with Patrick. And a part of that was because we were doing research in country, particularly to do with whale dreamers, which I'll ask Dan to tell you a bit about as well, with Bunna Laurie. The immersion in country up there was because they understand that as a part of that wider array, we have been allies in the past. Let's call us that. The tall white northerners who actually were in Australia when the Aboriginal people arrived as well. So this country here, you can see, hold on, I'm just trying to find the arrows. Very, very powerful place. So it is actually part of a celestial temple, which covers a good 40 square kilometers, and is centered around Mount Wollumbin. You can see it in the left-hand bottom corner there. This is Wollumbin, Wollumbini Momoli. And these are the seven sisters. So this is a celestial temple and lore that is centered around the mythscape of the seven sisters of the Pleiades, although we actually know that there's at least 8 in the star system.
I remember, Jenny, that you said Wollumbin was actually originally the sacred space of the feminine, the women's tribe originally.
Now, if you if you look, there is no mistaking. Even in these gender confused times, there is no mistaking that this is actually women's country. As you can see, that's that's one of the aerial views.
That's
and
right.
You can see the profile of the ancestrals lying. That's Wollumbin on the left hand side as well, obviously tipped sideways. This is women's country.
Definitely female.
Very female. So in whitefellow terms, this is on the border in northern New South Wales. It's a 20 million year old supervolcano that came down gradually during the time of Gondwana. Has a lot of lore. The point is that we were researching, and still are continuing, it being a part of the planetary grid system. So this lovely lady on the left, this is one of my aunties, Lorraine Muffy Williams, who I was apprenticed to in 1990. She was one of the co-founders for the Grandmothers Circle, the 13 grandmothers, that is still doing the work around the planet now.
And that's you looking a whole lot younger.
I know, gosh, yes, you keep saying all the time. So I was like 30.
But we were so impressed in Australia at the time Auntie Lorraine died. That's what we used for our teaching for years, because the storm that went across the continent on that magnetic line was her family's magnetic song line. That I was just so moved by that.
Yes. And one of her resting places is actually out on the island in Byron Bay.
Auntie Lorraine, we have the poem she wrote, yes.
Yes. So I assume that most people know about the planetary grid system. So this is the largest story, what I call the planetary story. So the grid, and this is based on Becca Hagen's 1983. You can see Australia with the blue arrow, and where the line goes from grid point 44 to 45, that goes through the temple site at the most easterly point of Australia. So we're in a big story. Hang on, I'll show you that.
That's Becker and Hager's Anti-Gravity in the World Grid. And actually that software is available to download, actually superimpose that grid on your Google Earth map. Actually, you can download it.
Yeah, this is it. So this is superimposed on Google Earth. So you can see at the top of the screen there is only actually one major grid point on the land, a balanced one, which is here at grid point 44 in South Australia, as we'll show you. So what we were looking at was how the plasma superstorm actually passed through Australia, because obviously being the only place on the land, it would have been the only place that was recorded in the rock art and petroglyphs, because the only other place is in Crater Moutoise, in South Africa. So you can see the grid line goes, well, west to east. This is where the law happens. So the energy passes west to east and obviously south and out through grid point 60, whatever it is, in Antarctica, which is why Antarctica is such a contested place, because it's where the energy of the planet, starts doing this. Starts becoming toroidal and is recycled. Lots of souls go out through that South Pole. So this is, So the other work that we did with Dan, which was further, obviously, along the song line, is recording. Well, this was with John McGovern, Dan, remember? And
Oh, yes, of course, John. Yes.
yeah, and Tony Peratt, so from Los Alamos. So we were recording all the sites where the rock art showed that actually a superstorm had gone through on its way out through the southern grid point 62.
Just to say a little bit, so John McGovern believed he could read any cave art practically globally by understanding the plasma geometry of the shaman cave wall carvings, which became the physics of Los Alamos Plasma Research Lab when they discovered that the plasma physics of how the plasma domains nest was how the cave walls. And so all of that connection, we have this article, goldenmean.info/whale dreamers, about their work at the yeah, there it is. The slides right. So I didn't mean to jump your show.
No, that's fine. That's exactly what I wanted. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So the point was that the ability to perceive interstellar plasma is literally the visions of the shaman, and also then the ability to call the whales with the same plasma coherence in your aura.
So do you want to talk about how that transferred? I mean, your work with Bunner, because I went on to continue working with the mirroring as well, and the Addamatna in grid point 42 after, working with John. Yes. Do you want to talk about the whale dreaming and the, ultra low frequency sound?
See, Jenny remembers this better than we do, but there's this amazing shaman there, Buna, who I think we may have met through Jenny. I don't even remember, because we knew the movie Whale Dreamer was produced by John Lennon's son, was involved with Jason. And
yeah, Kim Kindersley, sorry to interrupt. Kim Kindersley was the director.
Yeah, Kim Kindersley. And then our close friend was actually their director of Indigenous peoples during the film, Steve Tribeck. And so we were like family with all the people who were actually involved in making that. And if you think about it, the tribe's collective identity depended upon their ability to call the whales. What does that tell you? That the same dreaming coherence that the whales navigate by is the songline that you're inhabiting during the collective lucid dream. I mean, there's a whole story there. It's an incredible, fabulous story. And we have a lot of that, including the pictures of Buna's tribe at goldenmean.info/whale dreamers.
Yeah. So when we're talking about sea country, so country and culture is, the lands and waters and the skies, including obviously all of the, let's call it the plasma, I'm going to call it the plasma grid that goes around the whole planet. Dan might, as an electrical engineer, might have a different idea, but it is sentient. It is, there is a consciousness at that level. We might know it as Gaia. We can tap in, obviously Aboriginal people, they do that, they walk the song lines, the spectrum of their visual, the visual spectrum, they can see in, ultra, let's say ultra, and also in infra. So far more wide ranging spectrum of vision than we have. And there's also the the attunement, the affinity that they have with each other and the land, because they have sung the songs and danced the dances, felt the bliss and the ecstasy, done the rock art, passed on the law of generation after generation in order to keep this bliss, transmissible, and also obviously shareable, utterly shareable.
I mean, you can see the pictures of the whole tribe doing dentistry on a whale who came to shore after negotiating their dental appointment. It's just like,
yes, that's right. So when we say country and when we say culture and bliss, it's about the land, the elements, the earth, air, fire, and water, and what I call plasma, ether. And just recently, I found this, although I think it was from a while ago. Which is that our science is Western science is starting to catch up. So this is a showing energy lines actually from the North Pole, I just put this in as an extra. And
we've talked so often about body polis. The political body actually is the body of plasma coherence. Literally, collective bliss is the navigation which defines politics, like how beehives can swarm.
so this is at grid point 44. This is the elder showing, you can see the stripes here. This is sharing law. Transmissible over, they reckon, I mean, they have the oldest pecked rock art, over 80,000 years old, in their country.
We heard the Adnamatna all the time, and I never learned how to spell it till today. See, that's the beautiful picture on the top right. Those are the living plasma bodies seen by Los Alamos Plasma Research, and then those are the drawings around the world of the shamans seeing what they discovered at Los Alamos. It's so cool.
It is very cool, because they, you know, the Aboriginal people, they call, well, Durawine, the lightning clan, lightning brothers, who walked. You know, there are stories that they walk across the landscape, and these are obviously these plasmoids, these plasma beings, very large, and this is why they have their story is so much larger. I mean, apart from the star seeding, they also have this this very large mythscape that they inhabit. Just a great a great quote here from, do you know plasmacosmology.net, Dan?
Well, it's similar to the Plasma Universe group, which is very big, but both groups, they believe in angels now, and they're physicists because the plasma is intelligent, obviously.
Yeah, well, I like this one. The underlying assumptions of cosmologists today are developed with the most sophisticated mathematical methods, and it's only the plasma itself which does not understand how beautiful the theories are and absolutely refuses to obey them. I love that. There's that that example of the sentience.
Yeah. And we did this whole thing about the Ophanum angels, which is really plasma symmetry physics. And Tony Peratt is one of the world's leading plasma physicists. And now he co-publishes with the shaman from Australia, John McGovern, our old friend all the time. I mean, like the worlds are coming together, physics and shaman. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So this is the, obviously this is some of their art, and I'm sorry, I don't have the citation for the image. However, the Starseed Nations, every Indigenous nation that I have researched all understands that they came from the stars, and it's not just in a sense of being, you know, stardust, that actually they came well, through the Naragwal Githibal that Dan and Valerie and my family are part of, adopted into. So they say that they came from Lyra by the Pleiades. There was a big bust up in the Pleiades, which we know because we have the goodies, the good Pleiadians and the not so good Pleiadians.
Yes, it's amazing how well that all fits with the latest extraterrestrial research. I've been doing lectures with Elena Danan now regularly, and that's exactly their story. It began in Lyra, and then there was a big bust up in Pleiades, and it's like the stories fit. It's gorgeous.
Yes, so definite corroboration. And the celestial temple that's up at Wollongong is a part of literally their navigation, and that is why they will work with us. So, you know, particularly, I have to say, the Celtic, not necessarily only, but particularly the highly psycho-creative Celtic, Northern, you know, Scandinavian, Rus, the Aryan race, the ancient Aryan races. So here's the James Webb Space Telescope. Here's a beautiful image of obviously, but well, I see it as a plasma being, but incredible images that are coming out of from the telescope. So this brings us all to lucid dreaming. If there is corroboration that we do live as in a part of the much wider field and the much larger story. It is, you know, Western, particularly rationalism, not necessarily anti-religious, but there is something to do with that disconnect between the mind and the body and the whole that we are not fully embodied, we're not fully embedded. So how we in how we move ourselves and our cognition, our sentience and our awareness through space and time, in some ways has been very disjointed for us. So for me personally, and I know that for many who have connected with Indigenous tribal culture, there is something to do with, it's almost like what I call the boot camp for the soul, which is being able to tune up, initiatory experiences and practice helps to tune up, strengthens the, not just the immune system, but also the nervous systems and our etheric bodies, our minds, to be able to hold, just even to hold the concept of a larger array, let alone to inhabit it, is a challenge. So this is a part of what we as a group, and I've been a part of, well, this is the second group, which is the Aussie. The first group, we are serious in getting fit, in making ourselves fit to inhabit larger arrays, and that's particularly by exercising all of our bodies. So.
And really do collective work together. By the way, I'm falling in love with your word, proprioceptive intelligence. And just 1 minute on that. Remember when famous Lou de Bourbon showed that if people learn to move their dantian in a figure 8, goldenmean.info/Octa Yoga, and then gradually you could move your dantian and your heart and your crown and do these 6 perpendicular figure 8 movements. And then at the end of that, he developed dramatic proprioceptive intelligence, meaning, for example, he could juggle incredibly well, or he could find the center of gravity in anything instantly. But ultimately, you see, what that figure 8 motion was doing, just like the figure 8 cross crawl eliminates dyslexia, was enabling you to get centripetal. And I'm sure that same mechanism would increase the brainwave harmonic coherence and therefore lucid dreaming. Literally proprioceptive intelligence. I love the term. Thank you, Jenny.
Well, we know that it's about the only way out is in.
Exactly.
It's about being able to be aware and to be able to fully inhabit all of our bodies, emotional, mental, spiritual, plasma, whatever you want to call them, and to become more aware. So lucid dreaming is where, when we talk of lucid dreaming as being something, or you wake up in your night dreams, for Indigenous peoples, and certainly as a part of that culture, you are working 24/7. The work never stops. You just, a part of it, you just happen to be slumbering. However, you are still working on what it means to be fully embedded, every waking and sleeping moment.
It was so fun. They used to say, if you saw the Aboriginals sitting there and you thought they were sleeping, no, they're massaging the song lines at a distance. I learned later, we found this person who could make alpha in their brainwaves with their eyes open, which meant they could actually lucid dream with their eyes open, which means that the array was present to them, their attention, because they got centripetal.
Yes, and when you sit, you can, if you're invited to ceremony, and the group will just sit, the whole community, maybe 50 plus obviously people, and at first you'd be sitting thinking, well, what are we waiting for? And we'd sit, and in fact you get very good at sitting, and then literally en masse they will just get up and the ceremony will start, and you're kind of like, what happened? What just happened? And there is, as Dan says, there is, what they're waiting for is the ancestral forces to come up, to be ready, to gather in the force through pure intention, through the song lines, and then all of a sudden it's like they just do it. They just have to, they start. So
the group of ancestors like arrives, and there's this thing about astral hygiene. Because the group is literally an extended family, their collective intent means astral hygiene is there is a selective membrane. Only the ancestors they invite to speak arrive. You know, it's very intentionally coherent.
well, it is, because it's obviously out with so many ancestors. While respectful, there are protocols. There are very strict protocols for, for talking to your ancestors after they've passed on and after a certain period of time.
Strict protocols means like current people who do this channeling to understand the astral hygiene of those ancient protocols.
So I put this, I love memes. I put this meme on, which is, we do a lot of work in the shadow to, to so-called heal our ancestral lineages. However, there's an incredible amount that can be gleaned and really brought home, literally brought home to the self for the strengths that they've given you as well. That's always to be remembered and respected, because in the initiatory language, say of the Aboriginal people, you are watched for competency. You are assessed competency by the elders all of the time. When you can show that you can be responsible to both yourself and your community, well, and that's not self first, then you are brought forward for initiation. Whereas in a Western sense, we tend to go, give us the power and we will be responsible to it. That is not the way that it happens. You have to show that you can be responsible to the power that will be given you. So a completely different cultural sense in that way.
It reminds me, we have been doing this series with Bridget Nielsen, who has indigenous roots with the Ute and yet Mormon roots. And when they realized the Mormons were actually doing genocide on the Ute indigenous, the healing of that whole lineage of ancestral memories is a conscious task that someone responsible can take on. So the healing of generational memory, that's trauma, is so central here as well.
Yes, so generational respect. It's like they say that instead of leaving the ancestors behind, which once again in a linear sense we tend to see in the Western world, actually they say that the ancestors lead us into the future. So they go on ahead of us. They are not actually left behind. Once again, something that completely turns it on its head. So where are we going now?
The larger you. I think that's a great description there, the larger you. There's a question here. I don't know if we want to do that now. Milena said, Dan, can you say more about how centripetal is life and centrifugal is death? I think in general, what we're saying is, like, for example, before bliss, you must get centripetal before you can radiate. And obviously, successful lucid dreaming and successful death is to propagate coherently in this EMF longitudinal into this array. But first you get centripetal, and then you can radiate coherently. The rose has to pack before it can unpack. Also, what is the astral hygiene of these protocols to call through and channel our star family, star guides, and ancestors? Well, I think Jenny's doing a great job of talking about that because the Aboriginals are so coherent about that.
Well, I mean, there are many traditions that I have deep respect for, and including my own, which is absolutely Celtic, Irish, Scottish. So you can go through, if you like, back into your own culture and immerse yourself in your culture, including the lore, the stories, and find an entry into yourself in that way, because it is about being able to own culture. We do tend to put our attention on other cultures who have maintained that sustainability that we appear to have lost. So those of the northern hemispheres, going to look at the old Celtic stories and the power animals, the ritual, and start feeling that inside yourself, that's one of the things that I would recommend. Because we tend to be rather adrift in the north, which is sad.
And we had the stories of when groups want to do this trance dance or bliss dance, but in the West, we didn't understand that what enabled that trance to call in only the intended ancestors was the coherent intent of everyone in that family circle, crystal clear that only our ancestral family will be part of the voices we invite. And that clarity is literally astral hygiene. That is the membrane.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so there's something about lucid dreaming. When you practice and you start to inhabit both yourself and nested in the what we might call the larger array, the larger nest and the larger story, you start to become self-generating, obviously, with your own energy. So that brings about healing and attunement, and generally getting fitter, so that you can hold your own energy, and you start becoming a dream maker. In that way, generating your own through causal action, through your attention and intention, you start making your own dreams and generating your own life source energy, if you like, let's call it that.
I think you've got the name for the next Avatar movie, Dream Maker. but just to say very specifically, so when we measure golden ratio and octave cascades embedded together in the EEG at the moment before lucid dreaming becomes a portal and before kids can see without their eyes, that's exactly what we're doing, is enabling that embedding process. The octave cascade creates the structure, tetracubic, and then the golden ratio cascade creates the implosion, which is the charge collapse, which defines both consciousness and gravity.
Mm-hmm. Did Patrick, would Patrick like to say something? Patrick Bott?
Patrick is the one who originally noticed how those
yes.
two simultaneous cascades work.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe later we can make a shorter explanation about how we measure the waves. But for now, it's okay. It's beautiful what you are talking about.
Oh, good. So the idea of becoming lucid dreamers, we appear to have reached a point in the planetary story, as I call it. We've had various, let's say, resolutions in the Orion Wars. We are not so much in quarantine, because we have been quarantined internally and externally. And there are, with the galactic alignments that have been happening, there are energies that are more available to us, if you like, celestial or cosmic forces. So the idea of the lucid dreamer seems to be leveling up as far as I see. So we have on a shamanic sense, obviously, the shamans were separated, if you like, from culture, because obviously they had their own capacities and capabilities. And we're now, I feel, reaching the point where that these capabilities are more open to us, including if we look at from a biofeedback point of view, there are scientists, Dan and Patrick and others who are doing some serious quantifiable, investigations, let's say. You might call them experiments. And to me, this is what FractalU is about, which is bringing together the people and this new level of knowledge. And my aspiration and my intention is to be able to, bring together a group of people who are serious in pushing the boundaries and breaking through the glass ceilings of, the old programs that we've had on this planet, and really getting out there. And you see on this slide, lucid dreaming is not astral travel, although we do travel through the astral realms if necessary, and there has been recently a big clearing out of the astral levels of all the very negative and dense energies, including clearing out hundreds of thousands of years worth of souls who've been trapped here due to the ring, what we might call the ring past knot. Do you want to say something on what you know of the ring past knot, Dan?
Well, so what Jenny's speaking about here is so central. First, I want to honor Jenny for being brave enough to actually practically working to lead a group of lucid dreamers, whereas me, I was okay over here to teach the theory. But on a more to answer Jenny's question, so I believe that Elena Denon is really right, saying that not only have the Nebu, the Greys, and the Dracos been booted pretty much out of the solar system by the Galactic Federation and the return of Enki in the Ganymede, but also recently the trap they set for the Nebu Greys meant that the biggest stargate in our galaxy, the Trapezium in Orion, has actually been freed of the parasites, meaning bigger lucid dreams are available. Very important clue here. The more the gravity density is conjugate or fractal around that array, the center of gravity of this galaxy, for example, the farther the stargate goes. That means when you get your attention tuned up, you not just go through the heart of the earth, the heart of the sun, but you can actually go through intergalactic stargates as that attention grows in coherence. And to more directly speak to Jenny's question, we think that as these alignments increase the implosion, what some people call going to the next density or dimension, it means more axes of spin symmetry superposed, which means more charge compression, which means more charge collapse, which means bliss is closer to the surface, which means people who are angry go nuts faster, but people who are ready for coherence can lucid dream faster. So this means, yes, more people will be going nuts, but for people who are ready to really like inhabit a lightning bolt. So over to you, Jenny.
Well, if we look at the clearing out of inner, etheric parasites, that's a lot of the teamwork over the last 4 years has been about, bumping or returning to source, let's say, the archonic energies like the black goo, the dark virus that has been in all of us, with which we have been inculcated. So removing all of that, and then obviously there was a second push when, as far as I understand, and we as a team, by bringing in the vax, the latest vax, and that was another push in order to maintain the stranglehold, if you like, on this planet. So a lot of the work that we've been doing for 4 years is we might call it shamanic healing, bringing soul reconnection with those who have, been taken multiple jabs. Anyway, we'll go into that a bit further on in our, when we get a group together. So this idea of what we call healing has been a lot of the personal intention, or the inner fitness to actually eject and reject and utterly revoke all pasts, oaths and vows and bonds and etheric parasites, heal the lineages in the self, which then provides the fitness to be able to then move out more into the cosmic realms, let's call them.
The theory being that if your aura is imploding, you have access to bliss, that implosion in plasma itself will sort everything that's not in phase, meaning everything parasitic. So whether it's a stomach or an astral parasite, if you have access to bliss. And the black goo story was part of the Draco story, and that was, well, it's another long story, but basically, if something, even like the vax, prevents your aura from being implosive, they say the shamans showed people's aura was disconnected from their center of gravity. Literally, they were quite literally beside themselves because the plasma was not imploding centrally. And so that's part of this healing process, that literally getting centripetal.
Yes, so this is what the seers in the group were seeing, were literally that that something was removed and was standing beside the other bodies, so that there was a direct disconnection, certainly. So doing all of that work, that is a part of the, for me, the getting fitness, the fitness training, if you like, in order to be more self-generating and more implosive, which then allows us to reach out more. So, you know, a few of the other myths, which is, and we have passed through this phase, it's just that I feel that humanity is now reaching a point where we're leveling up. So it's not just about being able to come awake in our night dreaming, although that is a part of the training. It's not remote viewing, you know, or any kind of what we might call psychotronic witnessing, which is particularly on the mental level, and was fairly effectively, if you like, taught by various militaristic organizations. However, there was one very absolutely pivotal point, which is that the type of travel that we do is soul travel. So we are not just inhabiting our bodies and increasing our fitness. There is also that we travel, you know, with heart and mind and soul. And that for me is the pivotal thing. Therefore, all the astral hygiene, you know, challenges and problems, we just don't have them, because we are traveling as whole beings, let's say. So we're not dividing ourselves, which was often the case when, you know, that the bodies could be infiltrated if you were in an excorporeal excursion. So you were going outside of your, say, physical body. This is where the astral hygiene, the mental, you could be infiltrated, astral parasites, etheric parasites. To me now, it is possible for humans to be whole and to be traveling as souls. We're also, as in the bottom one, it's not about channeling entities. It is about interacting with, you might call them allies, your lineage, off-world, whichever, transdimensional, but it's not about channeling. So this is, I'm not going to go through this because time is getting on, but it's just to show you that, you know, one of the challenges in the team is how we're communicating what we're seeing and experiencing between us. So, you know, the team, we practice at least twice a week. We sync, you know, we synchronize energetically every day. It's a part of a spiritual practice, if you like, a spiritual discipline. We're often working nighttime, you know, in dream time. But this is the challenge is always, how do we communicate between us about what we're seeing? How do we corroborate, you know, what everybody else is seeing? And also, you know, that for me, I can articulate what I'm seeing, but someone like Mark, his body actually communicates what he's seeing and what he's experiencing and what he's feeling. So it's like he's seeing with the whole of his body as an organ. So I've put this one up, 9 different types of non-verbal communication, just to show you. I won't go right into it, but it's like, you know.
You know, Jenny, I'm reminded of that famous scene from the book 9 Faces of Christ, speaking of 9. And there, the first time he wants to visit his lover at a distance, in the lucid dream, he can see her, but he can't smell her. And then gradually he learns to get more and more coherent, literally take more organs of perception with him in the travel. And that then moves to what you're saying about when you get your whole self, then all of your organs of perception and your centripetal force you can take with you, and that in a sense immortalizes.
And it's all it's self-reinforcing. The more that we practice and the more confidence that we're gaining with what we're seeing, and it's like then we get then we get the biofeedback loop, which is questioning what we're seeing. How do we feel about that inside ourselves? You know, what kind of causal action? What is our intention? So I've put the list here of practicing. It's all to do with self-referencing. The more we travel outside of ourselves in the larger array, and we can own that, and we can bring that, back into our smaller selves, literally coming home to ourselves. So we don't have the astral hygiene, we don't have the self-referencing, like, oh, I feel really ungrounded, or, I'm giddy because my genes are giddy, or and I haven't done all of my generational lineage collapse work. So it's about being able to increase all of these capabilities at the same time. Yes, anyway. No,
so we define that increase in density as non-destructive self-reentry. So the further you go out, the more the need is to come back within to keep that centripetal force going. It reminds me of my first many months after intense Kundalini. I spent most of the time crying, and only later did I realize that what Jenny is saying about, all your generational pain, sort that first.
Well, certainly at the same time, it's an ongoing discipline. And, we might call shamanism, it's definitely a vocation. So just as an example, for two different ways of communicating things, I put this meme in, are you going to communicate using, some kind of dance, or, are we going to be able to communicate using dance language and others? So, sorry, a bit of tongue in cheek here.
The Holy Grail is the perfect language, but that's not me on the left, but that's okay.
Interpretive
or
dance.
Maybe it is. Maybe. Not sure.
Okay, so I'm bringing this back again because as a summary. So I guess to summarize, it's about those who are willing, willing and able, and having capabilities, yes. However, I feel that we've got to the point where if one has the intention to have the capabilities now, and we are paying attention to actually gathering the capabilities to become next level humans, that's how I see it. Then we boot camp for the soul. We are starting to be able to put it all together into some kind of something, and that's what we're looking for, is dedicated people who are willing to push the boundaries, really very, very not serious, but part of it is having attention to detail, to be self-generating, and a part of it is the intention, which is actually pushing the boundaries for humanity. I also, like Dan, have the inspiration and the vision of some kind of multiversity rather than a university, because there's a lot of interest in what's happening on this planet. So we're at the forefront of that, and we're gathering a great team in FractalU, definitely. And we'd like to, take it further to be able to make quantifiable experiments in coherence, and to be able to give people that biofeedback so they can see, and then that reinforces the practical work, the causal action that they're taking in their lives. I mean, there's a whole list, as Dan teaches very carefully every single time, it's about your lifestyle choices, it's about what you're ingesting, it's about what's coming out of your mouth, it's about how you're doing your life. And what we're looking for is a team that, is ready to dedicate themselves to taking humanity to at least the next level, actually more than one level. And we have the capability of doing that now. So, there we go. I just said all of that.
It's so wonderful that, we were right there with the theory. We thought, well, if we could have a lucid dream team that it actually becomes eventually a planetary immune system for protection from interstellar parasites as well, and not just steering tornadoes and a few other details. So if you had really good lucid dream teams, but then I felt personally that I couldn't see, or I hadn't developed that inner vision clear enough. So I can sometimes be the battery for the group, but I'm not very good at being the eyes for the group, for example. So that's why I was so grateful for Jenny, among other things. Incidentally, Jenny, we did have a question. The luciddreamteam.com, I think I'm going to put this film at luciddreamteam.com, and also Whale Dreamers. And someone asked Jenny about, you had a Telegram group for this, did you?
Remember we set up Lucid Dream Team. That's the Telegram group that we've been communicating on.
Yes.
So we can certainly join that, and maybe that can go on through FractalU.
Yes. So we will put, so we're going to add the Telegram Lucid Dream Team group links at luciddreamteam.com and in the FractalU notes about this film. Also on the Wheel. So we'll be adding the link to the Telegram group. And that way, Jenny's vision here, that we attract more people, that, you know, if a critical mass of real shaman get together and can lucid dream to get together, why, that's better than the entire US military budget. Oops, did I just say that?
Well, I mean, the luciddreamteam.com, it's worth reading, because there's quite a few blog posts that I've written from the last 4 years. So, you know, it literally takes us all the way through, well, all the way back, and then all of the, if you like, the battles for humanity that have been going on. And they're worth reading from the point of view of, you know, historiographical evidence of all that we've been doing.
Yeah,
so
wonderful blogs from Jenny, yes, at luciddreamteam.com. Exactly.
Well, it's just like, I was just kind of journaling, really, but it shows you what we've been through. But there's also the, you know, I'm a seer. I see with my eyes open and shut. What we're looking for, you know, is medical intuitives. I don't consider myself to be a healer, although healing happens, healing co-arises with what we do, because it's just about becoming more coherent. But we're not a, you know, a self-help therapy group, although that happens as well, because it's about empathizing. But there's also, you know, we're not just using the group to act out or, you know, do all that whatever stuff. So it has to be that we're dedicated to our own healing, yes, and also prepared to be larger than it, so that we can continue to do the work. So the work, otherwise the work stalls. As we, and also it you know, keeps the frequencies, if you like, not suppressed, but in that lower sense of the healer heal thyself relationship. So, you know, we're pretty tough, as in we get out there and we need to practice, you know, we practice regularly. So with that in mind, you know, any feedback, anybody?
Yeah, well, someone is saying they would like to join from Mexico. It's all wonderful. And, you know, we did say the Lucid Dream team sort of starts by crying for each other and pain and joy. And once we bond in that way and get to know each other deeper and deeper emotionally, the ability to have coherence as a group grows organically as well. Tufan, did you see any questions that we should play with here, or?
Yes. There's one question from Malena. Unpopular opinion. Cordyceps mushrooms mind control many species to infiltrate the colonies and then kill their hosts. Why then are they putting cordyceps in coffee and fitness vitamins if they are parasitic mushrooms?
Because I happen to know that cordyceps are widely regarded as useful and healing potentially, but there's also that old story of the first time you go to the mushroom, you think you're seeing through its intergalactic spore fabric, but then the second time you go, you realize it's seeing through you instead, and then you realize who is seeing through whom depends on who is the most centripetal. So was it a parasite? Well,
Mm.
Jenny, did you have a comment on that one about the mushroom?
Well, if we look at, let's say, you know, something that my son does, and he is very, well, our son, Patrick, and I, absolutely dedicated to assisting particularly younger people to open their awareness through mediated, you know, plant ingestion of plants, including fungi. So it certainly has a place, as long as, once again, we're able to continue self-referencing. And this is the problem, which is that people have these, you know, mind-opening bliss experiences, and then they're just not sure how to integrate them.
Yeah, we've many friends, you know, the ayahuasca story, for example. Yes, they became more aware of interstellar plasma, but also they became more afraid of it and realized their aura had actually gotten more porous. So the astral hygiene aspects of that are very relevant as well. And that's what the Castaneda says, you know, to make an ally of, that is the question of who is more centripetal, and then who is seeing through whom. A very deep conversation there, actually, about what kind of competent shamanism can lead those journeys with astral coherence.
So the kind of fitness that we do, and Mark teaches Wim Hof, so that obviously that's breathing exercises. I practice and have practiced for over 20 years. You know, South American recapitulation, talking of Carlos Castaneda. So I was taught, you know, the idea of well, doing the exercises to clear yourself every day during meditation of everybody's really annoying energies or anything that wants to come in and that has triggered you and is literally sticking in your energy field. So I use that as a part of the practice. So we synchronize, so that is, you know, we empathize every day on all levels. And we also, you know, join together as a team and either see what's happening and chew the fat, do synchronization exercises. So that's the kind of thing that we're thinking of. So we were wondering if, you know, if people, if they're interested, you know, that we might do a short synchronization. I don't know, Mark, is there anything coming up for? Mark's been keeping an eye out on in the larger array as to what's coming in. Anything you're getting through, Mark?
I've basically been sitting here the whole time with my head rotating side to side in that figure 8 pattern. So it's been really hard to talk or say anything until now. So divine timing. That's why I've had my camera off, because all you would have seen was my head rolling across the screen back and forth. My hands were kind of like typing, so I was taking notes. So possibly inserting something into the Hall of Records for this point in time. But no major alerts came through. Normally, if someone comes into the field, I will feel something in my eye. My eye will pulsate. So something will come into my field. I'll know that it's either somebody looking in that shouldn't be there or shouldn't be there at all.
The sort of shamanic gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. We've been gatekeeping the field. That's something that that we agreed as a team. Is Gracie still here? Gracie, have you got any feedback? Oh yeah, Gracie's still here.
Hello, yes, I'm still here. No, all's been pretty good. Yeah, just keeping that energy nice and clear, and yeah, it's really beautiful. So
it's beautiful. This is a serious opportunity if people want to join a Lucid Dream team. There was a request here to put the Telegram link in the chat window, but I think, Jenny, maybe we'll put it at luciddreamteam.com as we mount this film shortly, So that will be a further invite. But you get an idea how Jenny does this. So then she checks in with the team members of who is seeing what, and then proceed with a gentle collective kind of navigation. It's like, why can the beehive not swarm unless there's royal blood present? That is the coherence of the lucid dreamer, the real navigator.
Yeah. So I mentioned that that we're looking for someone whose specific capabilities are as a medical intuitive. So my site tends to be, I tend to go out more, and I can go in, however, it's not my thing. And there are some people obviously who can pick up just very easily, you know, how people are, what's going on inside people. They're the healers and the medical, what I call the medical intuitives. So we're certainly looking for someone. Someone in the team that we were in, absolutely brilliant. Personal reasons, they weren't able to continue.
Yeah, we had a medical intuitive, but so that's why the invite is going out here. Tufan, any other questions you're seeing there that we should be playing with?
I would like to ask a question to Jenefer, if it's okay.
Sure.
Then you can also take it if you prefer to. So do you think there is relevance to any type of practice during the hypnagogic state for the preparation for lucid dreaming? And if yes, would you give some examples to practice during the hypnagogic state?
And can you just describe for me hypnagogic again, and for anybody that isn't
Sure.
sure of it here?
It's a state between wakefulness and sleep, mostly when your brain is active on alpha frequency. So we can call it the state between wakefulness and sleep, between the sleep, before the sleep or after sleep, we can consider.
I mean, that's kind of beautiful in a way, because if alpha presence identifies the hypnagogic state to some extent, and alpha is literally, you know, the planetary grid radio tuning basic, it means you're setting the stage for that embedding into a larger array beautifully, because that's what alpha is, Schumann, basically.
The ability to be able to be cognizant of what is coming. You know, we all have precognition, we all get intuition and foresight. We also get hindsight, you know, which is that we are so-called traveling back in so-called time. Although we know that isn't what happens, because everything is available to us in the array, whether we are asleep or awake. And a part of, I guess, a part of the training is, you know, so, to be able to lucid dream while awake.
Exactly.
Is almost like there's something in our minds that goes, oh, this is a sleep time and this is awake time. Whereas, you know, for Aboriginal people, they're lucid 24 hours. They work 24 hours a day, and that is something that we're heading towards. So that what we see as lucid dreaming, which is becoming awake in our dreaming state, is a step, and that the daydreaming sense of, you know, when you go into a reverie, you kind of have a daydream. That is also a form of lucid dreaming, is it not?
What a day for a daydream. I was so shocked the first time it was in UK. I saw someone making alpha with their eyes open. I had never seen it before. And only later did I realize, I think Aboriginal people, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes.
So very good question, Tufan, about hypnagogic, because indeed that's moving toward this idea of awake in the dream and dreaming in the awake.
Thank you. Dan, I remember I heard something that when you watch a TV, you automatically switch to alpha state in your brain. Have you ever noticed anyone using the Flaming Mind application during watching television and measuring alphas right away?
You know, my impression was, you know, Steiner was so sure that if a kid spends too much time in front of external visual triggers, they won't even make the inner muscles to imagine. and therefore they can't make any picture inside their head ever. They lose the inner muscle. So from that sense, most TV, I don't think, would probably serve the alpha. It's true that, you know, for some people, the TV puts them to sleep, but again, I don't think alpha, most of TV is going to help much with the alpha function. I don't know if that's what you meant by your question.
Yes, thank you.
Especially the smart TVs, I've noticed.
Yeah.
People get absolutely entranced.
And that's a problem, because
Yeah.
you become so passive in front of your whole world, plus you're embedded in more and more electrosmog, and eventually you're a scrambled egg, and you ain't going to get that longitudinal coherence. You got to leave the gadgets, find the cabin in the woods, and do what, you know, Luke Skywalker did before the raising of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's about. I was thinking that that we might try as something practically. However, my general sense is that there's been an incredible coherence with the with this group. So I don't feel to do anything more at the moment. Mark is. How about you, Mark? Are you okay to go with something?
Yeah, we can try something for sure.
What might you suggest? I think obviously, because it's very subjective, we've been very coherent. We're not doing a demonstration. What we're doing is just, if you like, gathering everybody into the circle for a big hug. How about that? Around the fire, and we can, anybody who wishes to join in, we'll synchronize as a team. If you wish to join in with a group hug, then please do.
So we're having a group, we're visualizing the campfire at the center of all of us, that literally the flame in the heart of the mind. And then we're going to have a group hug around it, this inner visualization. Nice. One coherent breathing.
You might feel a tingling. You might get a high-pitched sound in either ear, which is the hemispheres and the cranial cavity balancing up.
It's there, yes.
We're not doing anything to you. All that we're doing is bringing the coherence in and gathering it in so that it is self-generative. It's like a, it's a gratitude thing, saying thank you very much for everybody for attending.
Yeah, feel it in the heart.
Mm-hmm. You can come to rest in your heart. Yeah.
Well, I feel warmth. I think we have a group. Jenny, you're so good. It's so strong, it's easy enough to get lost in. That's a real inner fire.
You okay, Gracie?
Yes, yeah, all good.
Gracie's recently joined us. I won't say you're a trainee.
Definitely hearts on fire.
I can feel it in the heart. I really can.
Yeah.
There's real heart-centered energy. It's wonderful. Normally we're stuck in the head, but here.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for being here and joining in. And
oh, thank you so much, Jenny. So
joy.
Jenny, you're wonderful. Thank you so, and thank you, Tufan, and thank you, Russell, for being here, and thank you both, Patricks.
Yeah, both Patrick.
Gracie, and this really was a blessing. So remember, we're going to put the links together for this. So people who wish to join will be at luciddreamteam.com. We'll also put the link at the FractalU.com when the film is up for this in a day or two, so you can refer to this, and so we can actually then gently work to form that team. Anyone who wishes to can get in touch with the link there. We'll put it at luciddreamteam.com, and you can be part of this team that Jenny has the beautiful discipline to assemble. Jenny has so many years of work in this field. It really showed tonight, Jenny. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
This was
Thank you.
a flame in the heart.
Maybe I just make a small comment, regarding the great lines on the earth and the beautiful picture that we have seen. When I was in Visoko, below the pyramid in Bosnia, it was very easy to get lucid dream there.
Yes.
And it comes. We were just making a small meditation, and a lot of pictures were coming. It was crazy, yeah. So I think it's very important to. It helps a lot to be at a crossing point of the lines.
At the grid lines, and the Aboriginals call that dreaming track song line. They knew they're right. It reminds me of the time in Prague, the rose map of the magnetic lines of Prague, and my ancestral clairaudience just perked up there with Valerie's ancestors in a way that, it's the magnetic rose that.
Yeah. And as far as I understood, there is a possibility to display these grid lines on a Google Earth map.
Well,
or
Beth Hagen's Anti-Gravity in the World Grid, there's a plugin. I will put that where you can actually superpose that map of the grid in the Google Maps, and you see the lines. Unfortunately, I don't think they've done enough work to actually correlate the pure geometric of the dodecaecosa on the detail of the localized line. They know the big nodes like Pyramid, the Giza, etc. But the actual local work the refined work is not hyperactive there. Whereas, when they put the Kozyrev mirrors, you got out there and you measured the DC nanoteslas of the flux density of the Earth grid magnetic lines before you got military quality telepathy. So, these magnetic lines do matter, and they're not arbitrary. They're real. And we'll do more of that in another show. But thank you for bringing that up, Patrick. Thank you. And thank you, Jenny. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been great fun. And we look forward to next week. We're going to have advanced therified plasma conversation. So stay tuned. Thanks for coming, everybody. And look Jenny up at luciddreamteam.com. The dream team is assembling, and it's better than sports. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Bye.